Hello, Namaskar. I am Mahen Pratap Singh. Welcome to my channel News Simplified. I am going to talk to you on a very important topic that is related to the Waqf board. It has been a hot, contentious topic which has been debated on all platforms by legal experts, by politicians, by the general public. Everybody has been talking about the new Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. We will view the bill, the act in its entirety. We will also be comparing it and contrasting it with the previous Waqf Board Bill 1995, and we will separate water from milk. In this very video, you will have all in one compact. Let us begin. Let us examine the whole matter surrounding the Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. This act was passed in April 2025 by the central government, and the parliament passed it with the consent given by the President of India, Draupadi Murmu. Now, any act or any law that is passed by the parliament must go through public scrutiny as well, and the public must be satisfied with that law, the basis of the law, and it can justify it on grounds of its constitutional validity. Unless there is a constitutional validity behind any law or any act, the law or the act stands hollow and null and void. It must have the acceptability from the public, and the acceptability from the public only comes on its being grounded in constitutional validity. So constitutional validity is mandatory, is so essential for any act to be applied unquestionably and garner support from everybody. Let us talk about the matter. We will be comparing and contrasting the Waqf Board Amendment Bill 2025 with the previous Waqf Board Act 1995. Sometimes I will call it a twist when there is an aberration from the previous one in the present Waqf Board Amendment Bill. I will call it a twist, and you will understand what the twist is. What is Waqf? Waqf is an endowment. It's a donation made by a practicing Muslim for charitable and religious purposes. If a practicing Muslim, a devout Muslim, commits a piece of land or a property to be given as a donation, it is called Waqf. And once the Waqf is made, the property is vested in the ownership of God. It means God is the owner of the property once the endowment Once the donation has been made, it's the property of God, Allah. What is Waqf board? Waqf board is the managing body of the Waqf properties which have been donated or which have been given as endowment for the religious and charitable purposes. What does the Waqf board do? Waqf board is the supervising body of the Waqf board properties. Waqf properties. It manages, it administers, it regulates the property according to its own laws or the Islamic laws as they can be called to be. It consists of members from diverse fields. There are MPs, MLAs, bar council members, lawyers, and two mandatory women to be included in the as members of the Waqf board. These members are mostly from the Muslim community, although there is no restriction on the inclusion of non-Muslims in the Waqf board, but there has been no consensus on that from the Muslim community, and the membership of the board is mostly those of the Muslims from the Muslim community itself. The Waqf board is governed by the Waqf Board Act 1995, and now when the new law, the new act has been passed in April 2025. This is called Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. Now the Waqf board will be governed and the Waqf properties will be governed by the new act that has been passed by the parliament under the central government. Now with the passage of Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025, the path for the inclusion of the non-Muslim members in the board has been made mandatory. It has been made mandatory from the government to include non-Muslims in the board as well. Now there is apprehension in the Muslim community that the Waqf board will be taken over by the non-Muslims. If the majority falls with the non-Muslims, they will have no firm hold on its decision making. They will lose the paramount right to make decisions on their religious matters. This is the apprehension as expressed by the Muslim community. Now look at what exemptions the Waqf board has been enjoying. There had been exemptions and they have been points of objection from a very long time. There have been points of objection. They have been objectionable from a long time. Waqf properties are not viewed as other properties in the country. Waqf properties enjoy a certain kind of exemption from other properties in many matters. There have been so many changes in the Waqf Board Act 2025. Previous Waqf Board Act 1995 offered exemptions to the board on many matters, more than one, which lacked transparency and gave rise to numerous litigations. The central government argues that it wanted to curb mismanagement and prevent encroachment on public lands. What has happened? The central government has argued in the Supreme Court that it has brought in this new amendment act in the to regulate the Waqf board, so that there is no mismanagement of Waqf board properties, and there is a certain level of transparency and opacity in matters related to religion are reduced. For this sake, for the sake of it, the government has brought this Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. This is the region as given by the government to bring this new act. Now let us examine what exemptions did the Waqf Board enjoy. Waqf by use. What is Waqf by use? If you want to make a donation, if you want to commit a piece of land as a donation to the Waqf board, you had no need to go through any procedure, legal procedure, like registering the land in the name of the Waqf and signing a deed between the two parties that this land is going to fall in the hands of the Waqf now. There had been no provision earlier like that, but there is a twist. With the passage of the new Waqf Board Amendment Act, it has been made mandatory for an endowee, it means one who is going to endow the land to the Waqf board, to go through a legal procedure and finalize a deed before donating the property to the Waqf board and making it a Waqf board endowment. This concept by use or user has now, with the passage of the Amendment Act 2025, been abolished by the government, and it is now mandatory for any endowee, it means the donor of the land, to go through a legal process of signing a deed with the other party, it means the Waqf board, and then he can hand over the designated property in the hands of the Waqf board for its management. Now, a written deed has been made mandatory for any dedication of land or property to Waqf, so that the misuse of the principle to claim public or private land can be stopped. What had been happening till now, and what prompted the government to take such a step and bring this provision in the Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025? What prompted the government to do all that? It is because it had been very arbitrary. If a certain piece of land was claimed by the Waqf board as a Waqf property, it had no need to produce any document to prove that, because there is no existence of any deed or registration process have been done, and that is why these injunctions have given rise to numerous litigations across the country. Many public properties and government properties, it means, and many private properties have been taken over by the Waqf board as Waqf properties, and This is why the government has taken this measure or given this provision in this Act 2025. Powers to the district collector. If you go back, there were no powers to the district collector to decide which property belongs to the Waqf board or not. Whether the property is genuinely Waqf board's property or the property of any individual or the government itself. This kind of a level of exemption was the Waqf board properties enjoying till date. But now this has changed with the passage of the bill, with the passage of the Act 2025. Now the district collector, who can be designated as the officer to determine what land is Waqf land or what land is not a Waqf land, and when the district collector starts his investigation or with the commencement of the investigation on the part of the district collector, the very nature and the status of the Waqf property is changed. It just ceases to be Waqf property till the matter is settled. Suppose that the DC, district collector, goes in favor of the Waqf board, it is okay, it will remain in the hands of the Waqf board. But if he decides that this property is not Waqf property, he can make certain corrections in the land use and the status of the land. He can order corrections in the land use, and the nature of the land will change with that. This is what has been done in the Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. One more exemption that the Waqf Board had been enjoying till date was 5-year rule. If you are a Muslim and want to make a donation as Waqf, if you are going to endow a land or property as Waqf, you need not to prove yourself that you are a Muslim and you have been practicing Islam for the past 5 years. But with the passage of this new Waqf Board Amendment Act, it is mandatory for any Muslim to prove that he is a practicing Muslim for the past 5 years, and only then he can make any donation as Waqf to the Waqf Board. This has been made mandatory by this act. Previously, there were no provisions as such. Now, another point to note here. In one more context, the Waqf Board was enjoying immense liberty, and that was application of the Limitation Act. The Limitation Act 1963 did not apply to the matters of the Waqf Board. What is the Limitation Act to 1963? According to this Limitation Act 1963, if you have been possessing a piece of land or a property for a certain period of time, now it is 12 years, you will be called the true owner of the property. And the law recognizes your right to ownership. But this does not apply in the matter of the Waqf Board properties, and this has been stricken off by the new provision, means the new Work Board Amendment Act 2025. Uh, Work board Earlier the work board could take uh, initiative. It could start the proceedings to retrieve the land, whatever land they claimed as work property, and even after a lapse of 12 years they could demand that this certain land belongs to the Waqf, and they had a legal right to challenge the ownership of the person who was holding the land at the time. This had been in practice for many years, but now this has stopped with the passage of this new Act 2025. Why was Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025 challenged? Now it has been challenged in the Supreme Court. The new uh, Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025 has been challenged in the Supreme Court, and those who have challenged it, the names can be given here. AIM Chief Osaduddin Owaisi, TMC MP Mahua Moetra, RJD MP Manoj Jha, yes, Samajwadi Party MP Ziaur Rahman, Congress MP Imran Mashood, Udit Raz, the MP Udit Raz, Maulana Madani of Darul Uloom Deoband, YSRCP and CPIM have challenged the Amendment Act 2025. And what are the grounds on which they have challenged this Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025? The first ground, as given by them, is violation of Article 26. Article 26 of the Constitution guarantees all the religious denominations to maintain their institutions, their educational institutions, and manage their own affairs in the matter of the religion. What has happened? They claim that this is an interference with religion on the part of the government, and it is violative of the Article 26 of the Constitution, which is a fundamental right of the of a religious denomination. It means all the religions in the country enjoy this status. They can maintain their institutions. They can run their affairs on their own way with their own laws, and the state will not interfere with the matters of the religion. This is a fundamental right for the people. The second ground on which they are claiming that this is uh, not right, this Amendment Act 2025 is not right, is that the act has given immense power to the district collector. It has invested immense powers in the district collector. District collector can decide which property is a work property or which property is not a work property. It means there is an encroachment on the right of the judiciary. If you make a district collector the who can pass judgment on the uh, right to ownership, this is a violation of the right of the judiciary. The judiciary has the right to do that, and you are just giving a revenue officer to decide on that matter. This is the second thing that has been objected by the uh, challengers, who have, those people who have challenged the Amendment Act in the Supreme Court. The other ground on which this Amendment Act has been challenged is the structural changes in the board. Now the board will not only consist of the Muslim members only, it will have to include non-Muslim members in its board. And this is the change has been included, and this is not acceptable to the people who have challenged this act. The other thing on which ground these people make objections to this act are abolition of waqf by use. Waqf by use has been abolished. I have talked it a bit ago, that if you want to make a donation to as a waqf to the waqf board, you need not register the land in the name of the waqf board. It means you do not need to sign a uh, deed of agreement with the other party. It means the waqf board, and without any documentation and without any registration, it was the uh, it was accepted as the property of the waqf board. But this has been done away with this by this new amendment act, and it has been objectionable for the people who have challenged the act. 5-year rule. The other thing that is objectionable for these people is the 5-year rule. One must be a practicing Muslim for the past 5 years to be able to make a donation to the Waqf board. It means Waqf dedication is possible only when you have proved that you are a practicing Muslim for the last 5 years. And these people claim that it is arbitrary and discriminatory. There is no proper mechanism to prove that you are a practicing Muslim for the past 5 years. There is no solid and authentic mechanism to prove that, and that is why this is objectionable. These people who have challenged this Amendment Act in the Supreme Court are claiming this. What provisions did the Supreme Court stay? I want to remind you that on the 15th of September this month, the Supreme Court has delivered a judgment on the Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. It has struck off many provisions in the Act. And what provisions have been stayed? There is a stay on some provisions. The first is that of the collector's power. The new Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025 had given a right to the state government to nominate a person not below the level of district collector to decide and determine which property belongs to the Waqf board and which property does not belong to the Waqf board. The decision making was vested in the authority of the district collector, and it has been called arbitrary and violative of the separation of powers by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has accepted this is a violation of separation of powers. District collectors should not be made a judge in the matter of deciding which property is Waqf board property or not. It is the sole responsibility of a tribunal or the judiciary to do that, not that of the district collector. This has been argued by the Supreme Court, and it has just state it. Composition of the board. I have already informed you that the board composition, it means the structure of the board has been changed. Now you need to include non-Muslims in the board as well to allay the fears of the Muslim community. The Supreme Court has struck off or stayed this provision as well. What the provision said? The provision said that 4 out of 22 in Central Waqf Council and 3 out of 11 in state Waqf councils must be non-Muslim members. There should be this type of composition of the Waqf board, and the Supreme Court has just stayed it and not allowed to be carried forward any further. It has also put paid to 5-year rule. It means it has also uh, stopped 5-year rule to be applicable now. You need not to prove that you have been practicing Islam for the past 5 years to make any endowment to the Waqf board. That is why the Supreme Court has stayed it. It finds it arbitrary and discriminatory. That is why it is doing that, and there is a lack of proper mechanism to prove uh, uh, which person has not been and have been practicing Islam for the past 5 years. There is no proper mechanism, and that is why the Supreme Court has stayed this provision in the Waqf Board Amendment Act 2025. What provisions have not been stayed now, which have been left out? The first provision is Waqf by use. Waqf by use. I have already told you. Waqf by use or Waqf by user, it provided immense power to the Waqf to claim a property as its own. In order to make an endowment, a donation to the Waqf board, a person must have a right over the property, and it must go through a proper registration process, and a deed must be signed between the two, the person who is the donor or who is donating the land, and the Waqf board who is taking over the land. There should be a deed, proper deed. But the Supreme Court has rejected its uh, arbitrariness. They had called it arbitrary. The opponents of the case had called it arbitrary, and the Supreme Court said that it is not arbitrary, it is rightful for the government, if it deems that there is misuse, and it needs to prevent encroachment on government properties. There is nothing wrong in that. The proper procedure to be followed is not violative of any rule. Now, the second thing that has not been stayed by the Supreme Court, the second, it is a Limitation Act, Limitation Act 1963. According to the Act, uh, there is a provision that if a certain period passes, the claim to the property is established. It means if you have been holding a land or a property for 12 years or so, you are the rightful uh, title holder to the property. You Your right to that property is not questionable, but in the matters of work board, this law was not applicable. The work board could claim any property after a lapse of a period of 12 years as its own, and it can start the procedure to retrieve the land. And this has been done away with, and that is very right according to the rule of law. That is very right on the part of the Supreme Court. It has upheld the two provisions, the first provision work by use and the second limitations act, and this is very right on the part of the Supreme Court. And I have tried my best to bring home the points that are necessary for a civil services aspirant, and you might have enjoyed the video. I hope that. With that, I request you to promote my channel and share it to people who need it most. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching my video.